Welcome back to the Farm Cook Kitchen. Today we have a special treat. We're making soup. Tomato soup. It's fall. It's that time of year. You gotta make soup, right? But this time we're gonna make it keto style. Welcome back to the Farm Cook channel. This is the place where you get to eat well, have fun, and hopefully learn lots, especially about low carb and keto cooking. So now, let's get ready and make some dinner. All right. Today is soup day. What we're going to be doing is making a very quick and easy version of a cream of tomato soup. This is one of my favorites. It's actually one of the favorites of my in-laws. We're making up a batch partly to bring up to them. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law took a tumble. She's having trouble after the fall swallowing some things. Her mouth is a little messed up. So soup sounds like a really good thing. It also happens to be fall. I mean, it's not feeling totally fall-like, but it's officially September, so it counts. So what we're going to do is get some fire going underneath the enamel cast iron pot. We're going to get some butter melted in here, and then we're going to saute some shallots, and then throw in some basil, and then add the tomatoes and the chicken stock. This is a super easy recipe. It calls for one 32-ounce box of chicken stock or chicken broth, chicken stock, one 28-ounce can of whole peeled tomatoes, one, I think this is a 6-ounce can, 6-ounce can of tomato paste, 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, and that's it. You season it with salt, and that's it. It's a very simple, very delicious recipe that happens to be relatively low carb, and it's delicious. It's one of my favorites. So we got some fire going under there. Let's get some butter in the pot. It's about a tablespoon and a half of salted butter. And next, this is a shallot that's been just chopped small. Doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to be super careful about the uniformity because it's all going to get blended later. And by the way, you don't have to blend. You could just keep it in chunks. If that's the case, if that's what you're doing, then I would be a little bit more precise with the cutting of the veg. But I'm planning to whiz everything together using the immersion blender to make it a relatively chunk-free soup. So I don't know what it is about fall weather and winter weather and soup, but they just go together. And this is a dish that is so simple to make, so hearty and so delicious. It is wonderful. So imagine you're dealing with, let's say you don't have a whole lot in the fridge. You've got some chicken stock, you've got some tomatoes, you happen to have a shallot. You can make this, and then maybe pair it with a grilled cheese sandwich. That is not bad. That is actually good eats. So all I'm going to do is get these shallots going, get them sweating until they get to be about translucent, not too much. And then I'm going to drop in some fresh basil. And I think the fresh basil added at this point provides some beautiful background flavor that gets imparted to the rest of the soup. It's just yummy. We're actually going to top with some fresh basil once the soup is done, but I think this sort of almost a sofrito method helps provide some very nice body and balance and basil flavor background to the rest of the soup. And this is about, 10-12 grams of fresh basil. I'll put another couple of grams in at the end, just as toppers. So I've got a pretty high temperature underneath the enameled cast iron pot. So the shallots are cooked or were cut pretty small, so they're cooking pretty rapidly. So what I'm going to do now is drop in the basil. get that going and make sure everybody is getting sauteed and included. Man, there's something wonderful about the smell of either frying onions or frying shallots, and then you add that fragrance of the basil. It's spectacular. So we're just going to cook this for another, I don't know, couple of minutes, and then we'll get to the rest of the dish. All right, it's been about 2 minutes since we last left. I've been stirring the mix pretty regularly, trying not to let anything sit too long and maybe get a little extra carbonated or turned into carbon. So the shallots are breaking down, the basil is breaking down. It's time. Time for the main part of the dish, tomatoes. So the tomatoes, the liquid that's in the tomatoes is actually helping to deglaze the bottom of the pan. There's a couple of areas where there's a little hot spot, so there's a little bit of stuff that was sort of piling up or sticking to the bottom of the pan, and that fond is what we want to actually get incorporated into the soup. That's flavor, unless it goes too far. You don't want it to be black and get incorporated into your soup, but we're using the liquids to deglaze the bottom of the pan. And because the pan was really, really hot, it's starting to break down. The tomatoes are already starting to break down nicely. It's exactly what we want. I'm helping the process along by poking at the tomatoes and making sure that they're able to release their liquids into the pan so that we're getting the process of fully breaking down the tomatoes started. And all I'm going to do is keep at this process for another 5 or so minutes. I may actually, you know what, since you're here, let's add the 6-ounce can of tomato paste as well. So tomato paste, you want to make sure that you have some time where it gets heated. There's if you taste canned tomato without cooking it, it tastes a lot like the can. But if you let it incorporate into the dish for a while, that flavor dissipates a great deal. And tomato paste provides not only terrific flavor, but wonderful body and mouthfeel. So we'll let these guys get integrated over the next 5 or so minutes, and then we'll add the chicken broth. It's been about 10 minutes that the tomatoes and the shallots and basil have been integrating and breaking down and infusing their flavors into the pot. I don't know if I can show you this or not, but this is what the mix looks like at this point. What we're going to do now is use the immersion blender to fully break down all of those bits. So before we do that, turn it off the heat, plug in our little boat motor, and get him going. That's the way things look right now. Let's turn up the heat now and add chicken stock to make it a soup. So this is just 1 quart of, happens to be Costco chicken stock. It's going to thin out the tomato mix and provide a very nice texture for the soup. See what that looks like. Unfortunately, with the immersion blender, sometimes the bits of basil don't get fully broken down. Maybe with the additional volume, they might. So I'm gonna try the boat motor again. Let me turn off the heat, get the boat motor going. Whoops. See if that's gonna work. So that does a much better job of breaking down those pieces of basil that are in the soup, as I didn't break them down beforehand. So, made a bit of a mess. Shouldn't have worn this shirt, but oh well. It is what it is. After making sure everything gets incorporated, last step in the process is going to be adding about a cup of cream. That's just heavy whipping cream. It's going to provide amazing body, lovely flavor, and terrific fats for this meal, or for the soup. And last, we're going to add in, this is about I don't know, maybe a half a tablespoon of salt, and that's what we're going to start with, and then test to see if any additional adjustments to the seasoning is needed. But that's it. That's the dish. And by the way, as always, recipes are in the video description in the video below. And I'm in the process of figuring out a way to create like a recipe card, but that has not fully been fleshed out yet. So for now, the ingredients and the amounts and the process is listed in the video description below. And at this point, all we have to do is let this come up to temperature, get it to the point where it's simmering for maybe another 5-10 minutes or so, and then we'll be done. It's been about 10 minutes, and the soup has been sort of on a low simmer so that there's a couple of bubbles coming up periodically. We don't want something that's like an aggressive boil that might cause the cream to curdle or break. So we're just trying to get everything heated through, integrated, and tasting really, really yummy, and getting to the point where we're ready to actually test and see if it's okay. I did test in the meantime, just for seasoning, and I added another, I don't know, teaspoon or so of salt. So let's see how things look now. All right, so the consistency of the soup is very much what I was going for. It's not super thick, and if you wanted it thicker, you could add another can of tomato paste. If you don't want this level of thickness, you could omit the tomato paste entirely. It's up to you. It's sort of, you dial in the consistency that you're looking for. But let's give this a try. It's very hot. Very tasty. Very tomato forward with some of the basil. You can see there are bits of green that are in here. And the cream provides some body and some, I don't know, I'm not sure what the right term is, unctuousness. That sounds more like sweet though. There's some very nice mouthfeel. How about that? Very, very satisfying. I'm not sure it needs any additional seasoning at this point. I think it's just good. So, with a couple of ingredients, a little canned tomato, a little canned tomato paste, some heavy whipping cream, and some chicken stock and a shallot, you can make tomato soup, have it available for your fall. And it's relatively low carb. I haven't calculated out the carbs. I'll include it in the video description below, but it's relatively modest for what it is, and this is pretty awesome. Anyway, thanks for your attention, and I hope you enjoy. Let me know in the comments below if you have suggestions or ideas or things that you'd like to see on the channel. Thanks.